Alrighty. There is actually two different ways you can make small buildings or just single rooms that stay perpetually cold. Now, I'm not talking fridge cold. I'm talking cool enough for you to be in during summer, and this may be an alternative to air conditioning or evaporative cooling. Now, I know there's someone who's going to tell me, no, it doesn't matter how much you insulate a building, you can't just keep it cool non-stop. There's the heat of your body that's going to continue to warm the building up, blah, blah, blah. It's not possible with physics. Well, it is. And one of these methods they have done en masse in Australia. Now, there's something called geothermal mass. I have a book that tells me that it kicks in within 6 inches of being below the surface of the ground. It doesn't kick in full on, but I think it's measurable at 6 inches, which sounds a little bit hard to believe. I could easily believe it if we were talking 6 foot, like 2 metres, or 9 foot, like 3 metres. Dan, I could believe it then. And there's an old method that's been used for years and years. It's like a wine cellar or a root cellar. And you can do the same thing with an underground room that has 6 foot of dirt above it, or basically you dig it down into the ground and the ceiling or whatever is 6 foot below the surface. Now, this is what's done in Coober Pedy. Pretty sure it's done in Lightning Ridge as well, but it's definitely done in Coober Pedy. I've seen photos of all this stuff. I've seen photos of them making them. My parents have actually stayed in one. They basically just get the soil or a bit of a hill and they just burrow straight in the side of it with a machine. In Coober Pedy, it's all pretty much rock, reasonably, yeah, sort of firm enough, but sort of soft rock. It's not full-on granite. It'd be classed as soft rock. And once they're done, they spray it with like a concrete sealant, and it looks like a varnish. In other words, you can see the rock straight underneath this coating. That stops dust from getting going and all that. And they've got a way that they ventilate it. It's something to do with... How does it work again? You have a tall chimney that's wide and a short chimney that's skinny. And there's some sort of, between the difference in the two chimneys, there's like a vacuum created with one chimney, and basically it sucks down through the other one and it creates a constant ventilation. But, you know, it sort of stays a reasonable temperature because the pipes are going to go through the ground as well. They often have wind blowing out there, but I think it simply works without the wind anyway. But they've got it set up correctly, these two chimneys, one in one end of the place and one in the other end. And yeah. And, you know, I've been told that up around Oregon, I think, you'll get something like 10 degrees Celsius. You know, I'm talking like, you know, 50 degrees Fahrenheit or something like this. You know, this is year-round. Apparently, you get that in the winter and in the summer. You know, and this is the thing with Coober Pedy, in that you get 25 degrees Celsius, which... it's at about 78 or something like that, and it is like that, non-stop, year-round. It may only vary 1 or 2 degrees, if at all, the whole year. There's almost no change in it, generally speaking. And these are out in desert areas that get up to something like 130 Fahrenheit, or possibly a touch more. They can get up to 50 degrees Celsius in these desert areas. And this is where they built these things. And so they're out there in the desert, way out whoop whoop. You know, they got wind turbines are a real option out there. But, you know, originally, before all that, before air conditioning and all that, the only way they could, you know, have it easy was to live in these things. And they're still all there. And they build them new, and they build extensions on them. And, you know, they're all underground, and they're underground houses. It's simple as that. They call them dugouts, Dugouts. And you may be able to Google it and find out a bit about them. And there is at least one video on YouTube with people in them. Now, there's another one I've been thinking of. And I noticed that during these real summer days that are 100 degrees Fahrenheit, 38 degrees Celsius and all that, I go up to my dam, or as Americans call it, a pond. And it's a substantial enough size, and not as big as some I've seen around here, but it's a decent one. And basically, I go for a swim in that. And when I get it's almost, well, at times it is actually over head height when it's full. And in certain areas up near the back, yeah, it is over head height. Now, when you get to a place that's, you know, up to your neck or is actually over head height, because often enough I put my head under, and your feet touch the bottom, I'm talking, it's 100 degrees Fahrenheit outside, you know, 38 degrees Celsius. It may be a touch less, it may be, you know, 95 or, you know, 35 Celsius or something like that. And when my feet hit the bottom of that dam, I swear black and blue, it is around about 10 degrees Celsius or 50 Fahrenheit, maybe 12 degrees Celsius, but it is bloody cold. I mean, it is seriously cold on your feet. Now, my theory is, based on something that I've seen some other American farmers do as a bit of a hobby. And what they've done was, and we've got a lot of access to these sort of things, especially if you have fuel stations, service stations that close down, and it's large propane tanks. So you get hold of large propane tanks. Now, I'm not talking ones that you go in your back of your car, run a forklift or anything like that, or 100-pounders that I've got running my hot water system or anything like that. I'm talking about the big bangers, big ones. You know, the ones they use in industry in the States, but we over here have access to ones that are probably even double the size of the ones you may be able to get in the States. And they are the ones that come from fuel stations that hold the propane for the propane cars. Now, you can basically, weld in appropriate places and make a little hole that will go down. You're going to need weights on the bottom or something to stop it from floating, or even concrete inside it, but I'd rather do something where I could hang a tray off it and fill the tray up with rocks or concrete or whatever, to hold this thing underwater at all times, because it's full of air, it'll want to float. And you're going to have a port that goes back up to the surface and stays above the surface of the water no matter how high the water level gets in the dam before it hits the overflow. And I've got an overflow in mine. So I know how high it's going to get. Now, my idea is that being under the water there, it'll stay very cool. And you might be able to have a great deal of ventilation, but my idea is also that you could have a pipe, 1-inch steel pipe, which we've got tons around here, which was used for plumbing initially, but now I can buy them brand new still and have them threaded and buy fittings for them and everything, and have some of that steel pipe laying along the bottom with a tap on it in case it starts to leak, so that I'll turn the tap off for the rest of the year. in case it, starts to leak during the year sometime. And a little fan, like a little 3-watt computer fan that blows down that 1-inch pipe. And basically the air going down that pipe will go down and then go across in the mud right on the bottom, and the air will be just as cool, if not cooler, than the actual propane tank itself, and then you live in that propane tank during the summer. And if it's 12 degrees Celsius on the bottom, there's quite a chance that you're going to get maybe 20 degrees Celsius inside, and that is better than most people have the air conditioning set. So that is another option. And, when you look at what it takes to run air conditioners and this and that, and the fact that you probably want to use a cool room every summer to sleep in, if not live in, these are pretty good options. They take a damn lot of money and stuff around to set up, but once they're done, they're done. Why wouldn't I do the underground one here? Too many rocks. It's just ridiculous. I don't think it'd be realistic. The other option is to actually build something and then dump dirt on top of it. And I could build a large concrete place that's rather strong and then dump dirt on top of it. But I don't know if it's really going to work, if it's a different soil type or what the heck's going to happen, being its own little hump out in the paddock. But, digging, I think we may be able to do it, but I think a couple of these options, it may be a little bit of an effort to manage some of these options and work them out. But, like all these things, you'd build it for the long term. So yeah, but there you go. That's a bit of food for thought. And options to be able to get through a hot summer without air conditioning.